Hello, I'm Amara Jones, and today is Wednesday, June 10th. This is Caffeine TV, your daily news brief, here to take you through three headline numbers in just 3 minutes, giving you a different take on everything from housing policy to the Real Housewives. The first number of today is 10, as in 10 years. That's the length of the career of Officer Eric Casebolt, the McKinney, Texas police officer who barrel-rolled himself into a group of black teenagers in their leafy suburban neighborhood just outside of their local pool and then pulled a gun on them. But yesterday, that career came to an end with a letter of resignation. That resignation was announced yesterday by the chief of the McKinney, Texas Police Department, who said that the actions of Officer Casebolt were, quote, indefensible, close quote, that he had arrived on the scene, quote, out of control, close quote, and had stayed out of control, and that his actions were contrary to everything that he had been trained to do. However, as a part of his resignation, he'll keep his pension and all of his benefits. But the real test is whether or not Officer Casebolt will be charged with any crimes, including the possible assault of a scantily clothed 14-year-old black girl. People in McKinney, residents there, say that the town has a history of sweeping racial issues under the rug, so we will just have to see what happens. He continues to be under investigation by the McKinney Police Department, but honestly, things there appear to be headed in the right direction. The next number today is 3.5, as in $3.5 million. That's how much former Republican Speaker of the House Dennis Hastert is accused of paying someone who he possibly molested decades ago when he was a high school wrestling coach. That person is identified in court documents as Individual A. And yesterday, Hastert appeared in court to deny charges associated with those payments. Now, to be clear, Hastert is not being charged with sexual abuse. The statute of limitations on that passed decades ago, but he is being charged with structuring those payments in such a way as to hide them from federal authorities and then lying about it. If convicted, he could spend up to 10 years behind bars. And recently, the sister of a man who has since passed came forward to say that Hastert also molested her brother, and there were unsubstantiated rumors in Washington for years about Hastert's sexual orientation. But in contrast to Hastert's mess this week is the coming out last week of Caitlyn Jenner, mostly to warm public acclaim, and so perhaps people around the world will look at these two contrasting cases and decide to be more of who they truly are. The last number today is 450. That, according to the New York Times, is the number of additional U.S. troops headed to Iraq, bringing the total number of U.S. troops in that country to 3,500. That's in response to key gains that ISIS has made in Iraq recently. Now, the purpose of these troops will be to train the Iraqi army, more of it, which has so far shown an unwillingness to fight, so much so that ISIS has made fresh attacks in areas near Baghdad, and in Libya, hundreds of miles away in North Africa, has captured new key territory there. But there's an open question as to whether or not these additional troops will do the trick. Training more people who don't want to fight doesn't necessarily seem to be a winning strategy. And as we've spoken about here before, one of the goals of ISIS is to draw the U.S. military directly into a ground war, which might be possible given the fact that the base where these troops will be stationed is just literally miles down the road from the front line with ISIS. Well, to use a Game of Thrones analogy, it seems as if the American army in Iraq is like Stannis' stuck and frozen army in the north.